I think we're live. There's always a little bit of a delay. So I'm just going to wait for the system to load. Everyone, hello. I'm Sarah and this is Joleen. And we are here today to chat about prenatal and postpartum care. Joleen is an amazing massage therapist. I'm still waiting for the system to load, so give me just 1 second here. And if you're watching us live, say hello and start to put in some comments. Okay, yes, I think we're good and we're rolling. So thank you so much for watching. Before we start, I want to remind you to sign up for the 5-day free challenge that's coming up on how to create a mindfulness practice. The link is below. And thanks again for joining this amazing community of women and for your contribution and comments and inspirational quotes that you've been sharing. We have had a lot of new members join in the last few weeks. So welcome. I am Sarah. I am a traditional Usui Reiki master teacher, holistic life coach, and a yoga teacher, and I am blessed and humbled to lead this group. We do these live enlightening conversations every Friday at 11. And so with all of that said, Joleen, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us your story a little bit.
Hi, so I'm Joleen Cullens. My business is the Healing Tree Massage, Bodywork, and Doula Services. And I wanted to let you guys know that I do offer virtual doula services now as well. And so this could be like on-call, labor support during the birth, or it could be like the meetings of like going over all kinds of tips and tricks beforehand and stuff like that. But I'm excited for the giveaway. I have this beautiful little tree that I made, and it's super cute. It's got some yellow and brownish beads on it that kind of represent like the solar plexus chakra, but it's nice and fall looking, which I think is kind of fun. So anyway, someone's gonna win this beautiful tree, so I'm excited to share that. So yes, so there's that. And so obviously one of my specialties is working with pregnant moms, and I do lots of different things. So obviously I do the massage, I do the doula services, but I also teach prenatal yoga. I also do belly dancing and, teach kind of a variety of different things, infant massage classes and stuff like that too. So, and I've been in this field, in the massage field at least, for 23 years, doing doula work for about the last 6 years. And it's been so fun. It's just been really a good time. So anyway, so I'll talk about some specific self-care things for prenatal to start with. So I always like to recommend massage because it really makes a difference. And if the pregnant moms are getting massages, throughout their pregnancy and especially towards the end, it can make a dramatic difference on how the birth goes. So a lot of it's about keeping the body balanced and keeping everything kind of loose and just ready to go. It can be a really fantastic, thing to do. So, but there's also, chiropractic care that really also makes a difference. And I feel like it's important to look specifically for someone that's trained for, the pregnancy, the prenatal and postpartum, because they have different tricks. They have different tricks than the other ones do. And it's nice to have someone that's got the, specific things that those pregnant moms need. So, and then obviously, there's the nutrition side. You want to just try to, find a balanced diet. But I feel like one of the tricky things to do is get enough protein when you're pregnant. You want to get about 70 grams of protein a day. And, so it's, you want to just try to find some nutrient dense, foods that are going to give you what you need, because that can really make a difference with morning sickness and stuff like that. So, and then I feel like a little side note that I think is just kind of an interesting information. So I know folic acid was like a big buzzword for a long time. It's like moms need a lot of folic acid when they're pregnant, and so they put folic acid like in everything to to boost that. But they actually found that's a man-made substance of folate. And folate is the natural version, and then your body absorbs it really well. But they've actually linked the folic acid to like lip ties and tongue ties. And it's actually kind of a big thing now that a lot of babies have, you know, trouble with latching and different things when breastfeeding because of these, you know, these ties. And so I feel like it's important to know that when you're looking for like a prenatal, you know, vitamin of sorts, that you want one that has the folate instead of folic acid. So that's a pretty cool little thing to know. Interesting, right?
Yeah. So I have a couple of questions that were triggered by some of the stuff that you said. So can we start with, you mentioned different massage therapists and chiropractors have techniques that are specifically designed for pregnant women. I've also heard that sometimes there's trigger points that maybe shouldn't be touched in pregnant women for certain reasons. Can you talk about both? Like, what is it that you're looking for in a practitioner that will make you feel comfortable, and what kind of techniques, like give us an example of what's helpful, and then also what to avoid and what should trigger a red flag, and what are those points that people shouldn't be touching? Because a lot of the times maybe women want to do self-massage as well, right? And they might not know what these points are.
Right. Good questions. I love it. Okay. So with my practice for prenatal massage, I have what's called body cushions, and they actually have like these cushions that have like a little belly hole cut out, so moms can actually lay comfortably on their belly during the massage, which is really nice. I was comfortable my entire pregnancies on them. Not everybody is though. So I also offer a sideline position, which is also very helpful and, you know, just as good. But I feel like a good massage therapist will have more than one option that way. So that's really helpful. And then with chiropractors, you want people that are certified in the Webster technique. The Webster technique is very specific for, you know, prenatal chiropractic stuff. And I feel like if they've got that they're like further enough into that prenatal side of things to feel like comfortable and safe going to them. And then as of like coming to, you know, so with massage, you don't, like, there's a lot of things you can't do, right? There's no hot stone massage during prenatal, you know, pregnancy. You don't want to warm up the core temperature too much. I don't do Thai massage. I know some people do actually offer that, but I don't have all the proper like Thai mat cushions and stuff for the prenatal for that. But that is actually, the Thai massage is one that I recommend after postpartum. It's a very different style of working on the body. You're on a mat on the floor in loose clothing, so it's a lot of stretching and compressions. It feels really great, but I feel like it helps kind of realign things in the body. That's really helpful. So yeah, and then the points, those are important, you know. So there's a bunch of different points. You have one on your hands, you have, you know, some on your feet, you have multiple ones around your ankle. There's some of the, you know, top of the shoulder, some, you know, there's one around the knee. So they're kind of like, they're very specific points. So unless someone's like specifically working those a lot, it's not going to be an issue. And it's kind of funny because I actually offer, I call it an induction massage, but it's really like one of those things that it will only push your body over the edge and kind of help get things going if you're getting close. Like if you and your, you know, if the body's ready, if the baby's ready, it can definitely help get things going. But if not, it's not going to do a whole lot. I've tried. I've tried many times.
Oh, so interesting, right? Because oftentimes
it's not like as, you know, as worrisome as some people would think it would be. But I mean, I still feel like it's nice to have people that are just like specifically educated and know what to avoid, you know. So I'll offer like an induction massage at like 39 weeks and beyond, you know. But it's really helpful because some moms, you know, they get that high pressure experience of like, you went past your due date, we're gonna have to, you know, induce you if you don't get things going. And it's nice to have some options that way. So.
Now, could you do that like as a consultation long distance if somebody needed help? Like, could you guide them to do some self-massages? Like, what are your virtual services like? Like, how does that work?
Good question. Yeah, so I'll just meet, you know, on kind of Zoom meeting or Google Meets or whatever. And then, so usually with my meetings before the labor, before birth, I'll have one meeting that goes over like the prenatal side of things, and I do go over lots of like comfort techniques, and I can certainly like give them some pressure points, some videos on how to do the pressure points and stuff like that. So if they wanted to do that to help get things started, and I'm available for like, text or calls or whatever questions kind of along the way. And then the second meeting's more focused on the postpartum side, which I feel like sometimes gets missed, like we have this, we have all this planning for the pregnancy and birth situation, and then you have a baby and you're like, what do I do with this? So it's nice to have like some extra information and even have like almost like a plan in place for postpartum as well. And I'll go over a little bit more of that too. So, but yeah, and then I also do a postpartum meeting, and that's more like, so after the baby comes, it's like kind of processing the birth experience and making sure they have resources that they need. And even if I'm not in their area, I still feel like I can be helpful giving them direction. It's like, okay, well, if you're having struggles with this, like maybe if you're having problems with breastfeeding, look for a IBCLC, which is like the master lactation specialist that knows everything about boobs, so. But it's just nice. Like most people wouldn't know those things to begin with. But so then I also offer the support during labor, and that could be video calls, that could be, texts or phone calls or whatever. And I also work with a backup. So if for some reason I'm not available, that I have someone that is, which is nice.
Can you talk to us about postpartum? Because you're absolutely right. That's an excellent point. We care so much about pregnancy and taking care of ourselves, while in postpartum could actually be a very difficult time, physically, mentally, emotionally, just for the lack of sleep, if nothing else, right? And yet the body, depending on what the birth experience was like, the body being sore or tired, and just the overwhelm, and a lot of the times the guilt that comes with feeling overwhelmed, because you're supposed to be happy and joyful and in heaven, and yet sometimes you're just like struggling a little bit because it's just such a big change, and the birth experience itself takes so much energy out of your system. So you go really, really high, and then you kind of just crash a little bit, even if it's just for the first few weeks. I mean, depending on the individual and how stable they are and how prepared they are, etc., and their health and all of that, but there's still going to be a wave, there's still going to be a period of adjustment. Yeah. So can you talk to us about a little bit about what to do?
Yeah, totally. So I know there really is a big deficit. I was actually really surprised. So I also offer locally I offer the postpartum doula services, which is where I, go in and I can help cook and clean and take care of babies so mom can nap or whatever, which is really nice. So, but anyway, when I did that training, I was so surprised to find like how we compared to other countries. And we're so lacking, like most places, those mamas are just so taken care of. They're fed, they make sure they get the rest, like the women kind of come together and take care of them, and everything's good, but here we're kind of just like expected to just kind of do it alone, So a couple of things that help with when it comes to prevention for the postpartum depression is sleep deprivation, which of course is hard when you have a newborn, but finding ways, even if that means, asking for help, if that means, having, hiring a postpartum doula so you can take a nap, like those things like just make such a difference with regulating the hormones. Like that's really important, And then the other one is isolation, so I think, women just, it's like they feel so alone and isolated and kind of figuring things out and just taking care of everything, and it can be really overwhelming. And I feel like there's this interesting situation that happens, where it's like everybody comes in that first week to say hi and see the baby, and it's like overwhelming, like visitors, and it's you're still recovering and it's exhausting, and then everybody leaves and doesn't come and help later when you actually need it after you've kind of recovered a little bit. It's like maybe you're open to some visitors and want some company or even just some help. So something I discovered was a book called 7 Sisters for 7 Days, and I really love the concept. So it was like finding 7 different people for each day of the week. And it doesn't have to be a woman, but it can just be anybody that's willing to be there to be supportive, right? And check on you, check on that mom, on a Monday, and call, even if it's at the end of, like after work, and be like, is there anything you need? And can I run to the store and get you something? Or, do you need a shoulder to cry on? Or, just how are you doing? And just checking in and really making sure that they, so I feel like it's important to kind of create that village, because we don't have that same kind of community dynamic, here, in the States. So, so I feel like that's really a helpful little trick. Another thing is called milktrain.com, where you can have, people that want to maybe bring you meals can sign up for a night, and you can put all your specifics if you have any allergies or limitations or restrictions with your diet or whatever, and that way people can be helpful, and then it's not like everybody coming over at the same time, type thing. And so I feel like that's a little helpful little trick. And then first thing postpartum, the warm foods that are easy to digest. Soups are great, just really just high nutrition. It's better to stay away from some of the carby stuff too. So just getting and just having things on hand, having some snacks, even having a breastfeeding station or something that has maybe some fruits or veggies or, your water and diapers and kind of everything all handy, because if you're breastfeeding, you're going to be doing it a lot. And it's going to be really hard to feed yourself. And it's surprising how hard it is, honestly.
So what are you suggesting? That we eat as we breastfeed? So while the baby eats, you eat too?
Oh, yep.
Oh,
totally. Wow. And it's funny how, your self-care changes, postpartum. Taking a shower is self-care. If you do that in a day, you had a really good self-care day. So, and it's okay, being open to knowing that, everything is probably going to go to crap, it's going to be a mess, and your life won't be like that forever. But while you're figuring things out, it's good to just kind of let go, and just be with that baby, just enjoy that skin to skin time, just really soak that in, and just know that you don't have to stay on top of everything.
And let the dishes pile up in the sink, and the house get a little messy, and the laundry pile up, and maybe just have the husband take it to...
Yeah, I look back even, and I'm like, why did I think it was so important to wash the dishes?
Because, from an energy perspective, I think that what happens is, and this is something that I kind of help people with oftentimes, especially when they're always trying to control their environment and keep it as so tidy, OCD people. What it is sometimes when we're uncomfortable and our reality has changed, we think that if we just have everything in order and the dishes clean and the laundry done and everything on the external environment is where it should be, that it supposedly gives us some sense of safety, right? And so a lot of the times, and I know I did it when I first had my children, it's you have this new thing, you want the perfect little house for the perfect little baby, and then you're, I don't want to say wasting, but wasting energy that you should be using towards the baby and towards yourself in trying to create an external environment that somehow mirrors the order that you wish you had inside, because inside everything's been turned upside down, right? So I think that sometimes understanding why we do the things we do could be helpful in realizing and being able to let it go and understand, oh, this is why I feel the need to go wash the dishes and do the laundry, make sure my house is completely clean, even though I have no energy and I'm exhausted. And so if we just allow that to happen and we understand that this is why we have that urge, then we can actually say, okay, I understand, but life is messy right now and life is good even if the dishes are on the sink. I have a bunch of other questions.
Let me touch a little bit more on that too, just because I feel like there is too much focus on the baby sometimes. You hear that saying all the time where it's as long as the baby's healthy, which kind of tosses mom out the window. You know, it's like, no, what about mom? Mom needs to be healthy too, and this is important. And even focusing maybe more, I don't know if you've heard of like the mother blessings, instead of like a baby shower, or maybe even doing both. But the mother blessing is really more about focused on mom. And I feel like it's okay to request, if you're one of those people that's like, you know, I really just can't relax when my house is dirty. I can't stand it. Like, asking for like maybe some housekeeping gift certificates or something for postpartum, like even for a baby shower, you know, like that being like a total usable gift, you know, that would just be amazing. Like, I would have loved that, you know?
Yeah, that is a great idea. I never even thought of that.
Yeah, so.
Okay, wonderful. So the question that I had as we begin to wrap up here is, can you talk to us a little bit about prenatal yoga and postpartum yoga? Like, I know I teach it and I do it as well, but I'm not currently taking one-on-one clients for yoga only, because I'm focused on my 90-day awakening and empowerment program. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to also share about the prenatal classes that you're currently holding through Zoom, but also postnatal yoga. Do you have any experience teaching those classes? I think a lot of the times they can be so useful. In my training, and I don't know, maybe you can correct me with more experience, my training was that women should wait at least 4 to 6 weeks in order to go back to yoga after giving birth. And to me, that kind of made sense because we do so many hip opening poses. But I'm not as good and intuitive as I am. I don't have specific particular training for postnatal, and I'll be curious on your thoughts on both, if you don't mind.
Right. So I do feel like generally, like, if it's okay for pregnancy, it's generally okay for postpartum too. So with prenatal, there's no twists, there's no back bends, you know, no inversions. So it is a little bit more limited than your regular yoga class, right? But there's still a lot of fantastic stuff that can be done that can be really helpful. And then a little point that I want to touch on concerning the postpartum body, I do feel like it's helpful to wait at least a month and listening to your body, and then even, you know, like having things checked. But I feel like sometimes, you know, if you feel like something's not right, it is probably not. And it's important to know that you can, like, there's a pelvic floor or pelvic health specialist with a physical therapist that could make a huge difference. And in a lot of countries, it's actually just part of their postpartum care that women go and get the pelvic floor checked, because it gets pretty trashed sometimes during labor. And it's nice to just make sure everything's kind of working properly down there, because I feel like things that everybody kind of associates with after you have a baby, like you sneeze and you pee, like that just seems like a kind of a normal, common thing that happens. But it is common, but it's not normal. And there's totally things that can be done, like, you know, so those are things that you don't have to just suffer with. And I also think that there's kind of a confusion with, like, people like feel like, oh, well, if your pelvic floor is weak, you just need to do Kegel exercises, right? Well, it's actually more common that the pelvic floor is too tight than too loose, and that women, you know, so people are like, oh, you know, the Kegels actually don't help when it's too tight. They need to find ways to relax the pelvic floor instead, and the Kegels can actually make it worse. So I feel like it's important to know that that's like a direction that women can go with the physical therapy, that could be super helpful. But yeah, the postpartum yoga, I feel like it's nice to kind of get the body moving and just doing some, you know, just some, you know, nice relaxing stuff. So I actually don't have, so my class is combined. It's called a women's health class. And I have other people that aren't pregnant or postpartum per se in the class, but it's all safe for both of those, which is nice. And so right now I'm doing my Zoom classes at 9:30 on Wednesdays, and it's through Relaxation Fitness, which is in Fruit Heights in Utah. But yeah, it's nice to have the Zoom option so you can do it wherever you're at. And yeah, it's really...
I'm gonna go ahead and do a plug-in here for Chelsea Bayers. If anyone is interested in resources for pelvic floor health, and like, I'm not sure she does physical therapy per se. Maybe she can comment below if she sees the live. she's going to be talking to us about this on, I think it was October 23rd is when that Friday, she's going to be live with us. Because I think you're right. There's a lot of need for having these conversations. Because a lot of the times it's not only we don't know, but we don't want to talk about it because there's shame and like, oh, I peed myself. Like I laugh and I pee and that's embarrassing. Like, well, yeah, so let's talk about it to try and get some help and figure out what it is that can be done. And what you just said about the pelvic floor being too tight versus being too loose, I've never heard of that before. Like I find that very interesting. So I'd love to learn more about that too, because how does that manifest though? Like what are the symptoms of that?
It can be a lot of the same symptoms. The too loose and too tight kind of show up in the same way. So they both can be like leaking, your incontinence can be an issue that can come with either one of those. But also prolapse is where like some of your organs, maybe like your bladder or uterus tries to come out your vagina. Like that's an issue from, it can be both too tight and too loose. And a lot of it can be positioning, like how because the pelvis is meant to kind of sit in a way that your pubic bone, your pubic symphysis is meant to like hold up those organs. But if you're tilted in the way that it's not supporting that, it makes it easy for those things to kind of get weakened or even just too tight in some areas, too loose in other areas, and just not holding things in place, right? So
are you saying that there's like exercises that people can do to help with that?
Yeah, and even just making the awareness. So even some of my own experience with working with a physical therapist was just the breathing, where she taught me like how to kind of breathe more into my ribs, and just even breathing into the ribs made more movement into my pelvic floor, which it's like sometimes that stagnation in there without, because you're supposed to feel as much movement in your pelvic floor as you do in your belly when you breathe. And so, if there's not that like lift and lower, then things kind of get stagnant in there too, and can cause other issues with, menstrual cycles and different things. But it was cool to make that connection and knowing even just like the breathing and stuff. But yeah, there's definitely exercises that can be done, or stretches and things that can be done to help help with the posture, to have the pelvis in an optimal position. Yeah, and then just, and then there's strengthening, but there's all kinds of things. They can do dry needling on the pelvic floor, which is, I've experienced dry needling myself, but just not on my pelvic floor, but I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, it was kind of cool. There's really so much out there. So
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
Yeah, so dry needling, it's a pretty cool technique. It's similar, like they use the long skinny needles that they use for acupuncture, but it's a very different focus. So they go deep into like a trigger point, a knot basically, but it kind of releases that deeper tension in the body that even massage can't reach. So I've personally found it really helpful for like those muscles that are super tight and just won't let go. But yeah, so
wow,
there's definitely lots of options.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this goodness. So Joleen's website is below, and for the weekend, if you watch this live and you comment on Monday morning, I will do a raffle for the tree. Show them the tree again, because the tree is so beautiful. Do a little close-up of the tree so we can see it. Oh, that is so gorgeous. I'm so excited. So I will do a little raffle on Monday for whomever comments on this live, and then check out her resources. Don't forget to sign up for my 5-day challenge. All the links are in the description here. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much, Joleen, for joining us and giving us all of this amazing information. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sarah. It's been so fun. I so appreciate you and all that you do, and thanks for including me in all your fun things.
Thank you. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.